Recently, we had our first very brief glimpse of the upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake, and we're as excited as a ganado with a new axe. Happy as a clam. It's got us wondering though, will this Resident Evil 4 remake be a faithful recreation of the original game? Or will Capcom change it up so that there are still surprises for long-time fans? Also, how weird is this remake going to be? Because the original Resident Evil 4 was weird with a capital W in ways that you might have forgotten in these 17 years since it came out. Don't remember? Allow us to jog your memory with these 7 weirdest things about the original Resident Evil 4. Enjoy, and beware spoilers ahead for, I guess, Resident Evil 4. One of the most memorable boss encounters in Resident Evil 4 was against Del Lago, the giant salamander thing that lives in the lake and takes you water skiing whether you like it or not. The way this encounter usually goes is, you enjoy your turn around the lake, pelting Del Lago with your inexhaustible supply of harpoons until he finally dies, but not before trying to take you with him in the process. If you're the impatient sort, however, you can instead try to get a head start on the boss fight by firing wildly into Del Lago's lake before the encounter even begins, an unsportsmanlike act that you'd think would have zero consequences before you remember that this is Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 is weird. As such, you immediately get your comeuppance for trying to be clever when Del Lago bursts out of the lake and insta-murks you. Will we meet Del Lago in the Resident Evil 4 remake? We don't know, but our advice, if you see a lake, leave it alone, yeah? Speaking of shooting things you're not supposed to, we also wonder if this weird Easter egg will make it into the Resident Evil 4 remake. Now, I'm sure you can think of lots of reasons for wanting to shoot Louis Serra from the original game. That waistcoat, for a start.
I've got something for you guys. What? Oh, shit! I must have dropped it when I was running away from them.
However, when the two of you are trapped in a cabin fighting off hordes of angry ganados, it's in your best interest to work with Louis to try and repel the advancing horde.
Oh, excuse me, your highness.
I know, but he does throw you ammo and does his fair share of shooting, so what you ought to do is let him get on with it. What you ought not to do is turn your gun on Louis, or even hit him accidentally, something that can definitely happen considering how many things are swarming you like shoppers at a Black Friday sale and you're a giant OLED television. If you shoot Louis too many times, he decides that enough is enough and, well, this happens.
Adios, Leon.
Unbelievable, Louis. You're not even the main character. Answer me this, who's on the box for this game? Oh, right, the chainsaw guy from the village. I guess he's the main character. In Resident Evil 4, Leon's mission is to rescue Ashley Graham, the US President's daughter, who has been kidnapped by the Illuminados cult. In defense of the presidential security staff presumably in charge of not letting this happen, it turns out that Ashley is quite easy to kidnap. But that's not Ashley's only function in Resident Evil 4. No, she's also there for people to be deeply, weirdly creepy to and about. Now, Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005, which could charitably be described as a different time, and uncharitably described as a time when one of your ostensibly heroic characters could stare at the chest of the young woman you're here to protect and say,
I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics too.
Not to mention a time when a game would both let players maneuver the camera to look up a character's skirt, and also include voice lines that make it clear that she's not enjoying it.
Hey, what are you looking at?
2005, everyone. In light of that stuff, it seems likely one of our key changes for Resident Evil 4 Remake is going to be Ashley's character and her relationship to Leon. In fact, most of these elements were already modified for Resident Evil 4 VR, so the odds are good. Plus, hopefully, it means we never have to hear this again. And that's win-win. Resident Evil games used to be full of bizarre unlockable costumes, from Jill's pirate costume in Resident Evil Revelations to the low-poly models from the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Why couldn't you just hand over the sample?
Because I realized, as much as I wanted to trust you, I didn't.
Man, you could cut yourself on all those sharp edges. Obviously, these wacky outfits have taken a bit of a backseat in recent Resident Evil games, what with the series going first person and all, so we're interested to see if in Resident Evil 4 Remake we get anything as weird as the original Resident Evil 4's unlockable costumes. Not the first set, which are pretty unremarkable, but the second set, which you unlock when you complete Ada Wong's campaign Separate Ways. This included a 1920s gangster outfit for Leon, for some reason, and for Ashley, a suit of medieval plate armor that made her invulnerable to all damage, and crucially, too heavy to pick up. Being able to forget about Ashley and just play the game without having to stash her in a bin every 30 seconds was a real treat, and really allows Leon the time he needs to indulge in his true passion, 1920s gangster cosplay.
Loud and clear. Somehow I thought you'd be a little older.
I feel like you're not taking this mission seriously, Leon. The best part of how Resident Evil 2 star Leon Kennedy was redesigned for Resident Evil 4 was his now iconic jacket, a fleece-lined shearling bomber with an excellent collar that looks like it cost him a small fortune.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
The Secret Service must pay pretty good. Sadly for Leon, he loses this excellent jacket at the end of Chapter 1, meaning Leon is jacketless for almost the entire game, which is a bizarre choice from the developers. If you're taking requests, Capcom, the remake ought to let Leon hang on to this jacket for much longer, or at least to get it back later in the game.
Hey, wake up.
And if you're wondering what happened to the jacket, that's yet another weird thing that we'd forgotten about in Resident Evil 4. It was stolen by a GANADO, who you can see wearing it when you go back to the village in Ada's Separate Ways game mode. I don't blame him, but seriously, not cool. Look, I don't think anyone is out here claiming that Resident Evil 4 was a realistic game. This is, after all, a game in which you spend a not insignificant amount of time fighting tentacle monsters and suplexing people. That said, there were some things in the original game that were weird even by these standards, and for me, the biggest one was this: you can mass murder crows with flash grenades. This was actually a useful technique, as crows tended to flock together, meaning you could toss a flash grenade into the middle of the group, it'd go off, and all the birds would instantly evaporate, leaving you with a bumper crop of goodies to collect, because oh yes, crows also carried money and ammunition on them for some reason. Will this bizarre ornithological mystery resurface in the Resident Evil 4 remake? We don't know, but birds dropping things when you shoot them did make a return in the recent Resident Evil Village, so fingers crossed. Unless you're a crow, obviously. Everyone likes to play video games a bit differently. Some go for the biggest screen possible, some insist on noise-cancelling binaural headphones. Still others maintain that you can't get the full horror effect of something like Resident Evil 4 unless the lights are out and the curtains are drawn. One thing I think we can all agree on, however, is that the ultimate way to play Resident Evil 4 is with this deeply weird chainsaw controller. Except, haha, obviously of course not, because this thing is both incredibly unwieldy, unpleasant to look at, and so cumbersome that it didn't even fit in the box it came in. Why didn't they make a bigger box? We'll literally never know. Will there be a similar limited edition controller for the release of the Resident Evil 4 remake? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no, but then again, who can say? Maybe Capcom will do it as a joke, at which point I actually would probably buy one ironically. Also, I just looked at the prices for the old one on eBay, and holy shit, this one is going for $450. Okay, I changed my mind. If these do get made, I'm buying as many as I can. These are my bitcoins.
Chainsaw.
Those were 7 deeply weird things you may have forgotten about in the original Resident Evil 4, but we're here reminding you of in time for the upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake, which we are, of course, very excited for. Do you think any of these oddities will make it into the updated game? What Resident Evil 4 weirdness do you hope is preserved for the remake? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to Outside Xbox for more on the Resident Evil 4 remake as soon as we get it. And if you like this video, why not consider joining the OX Supporters Club via the link on screen? Be awesome if you did. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.